What happens when two titanic armies collide in the largest tank battle in history? Spoiler alert, it's loud, fiery, and absolutely epic. This is the story of the Battle of Kursk, a showdown that changed the course of World War II. It's summer 1943 and the Eastern Front is ablaze. The Germans have just been dealt a massive blow at Stalingrad, but they're not ready to call it quits. Hitler, in his infinite wisdom, sarcasm alert, decides it's time for a counteroffensive, a final blow to reclaim the initiative on the Eastern Front. The target? The Kursk salient, a bulge in the Soviet lines. Hitler believed this operation, codenamed Operation Citadel, would be his masterpiece, a knockout punch to crush the Red Army. What could go wrong, right? Well, pretty much everything. The Soviets were ready, like overly ready. Thanks to brilliant intelligence work and some loose lips on the German side, Stalin and his commanders knew the attack was coming. So, they prepared. And by prepared, I mean they turned the Kursk region into a fortress. We're talking 8,000 kilometers of trenches, thousands of anti-tank guns, over 1 million Soviet troops. Oh, and a little something called the T-34 tank, which was about to have its shining moment. The Red Army wasn't just waiting for the Germans, they were inviting them to the party, complete with mines, traps, and a big old dose of Soviet determination. July 5th, 1943. The Germans launched their offensive with the largest concentration of tanks ever assembled. The Panther and the Tiger tanks roll into action, their cannons roaring like thunder. But here's the twist. The Soviets don't run. Instead, they dig in their heels, literally, and unleash a storm of resistance. Imagine charging into a wall of artillery fire, minefields, and angry Soviet soldiers with a lot of grenades. The Germans learned real quick. Kursk was not going to be a blitzkrieg picnic. And then came Prokhorovka, a name that still sends chills down a tank commander's spine. This was the climax of the battle, a chaotic melee involving nearly 1,500 tanks. Imagine an armored demolition derby, but with cannons. The German Tigers were beasts, but they were slow and clunky compared to the nimble T-34s. The Soviets swarmed them, outmaneuvering the lumbering giants in a deadly dance of steel and fire. By the end of the day, the fields of Prokhorovka were littered with smoking wreckage, but the Soviets held the line. The Germans, meanwhile, were losing tanks faster than they could replace them. As if things weren't bad enough for the Germans, something else happened. Hitler lost his nerve. With the Allies landing in Sicily, he ordered troops and tanks to withdraw to deal with the new front. Operation Citadel was officially called off and the Germans retreated. For the Soviets, this was a massive victory. Not only had they survived the German onslaught, but they had also broken the back of the Wehrmacht's offensive power. The Battle of Kursk wasn't just a Soviet victory, it was the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany on the Eastern Front. After Kursk, the Red Army went on the offensive, driving the Germans all the way back to Berlin. But the price was staggering. The Soviets suffered over 800,000 casualties, while the Germans lost nearly 200,000 men and thousands of tanks. Kursk was a victory, but it was a bloody one. Kursk proved that the days of German dominance were over. It showed the world that the Red Army was a force to be reckoned with, and it cemented the T-34 tank as one of the greatest weapons of the war. But perhaps most importantly, it was a reminder that in war, preparation, resilience, and sheer grit can overcome even the most formidable foes. The Battle of Kursk was more than just a clash of tanks. It was a turning point in history. It showed us the limits of brute force and the power of determination. So, what do you think? Could you have survived the chaos of Prokhorovka? Let me know in the comments. And hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive into history, hit that subscribe button. It's way easier than driving a T-34 into a Tiger tank, I promise. Also, I'd love your feedback. How can I make these videos better? Got a topic in mind? Drop your thoughts below and let's make history together.